Morning everybody. So this morning we're out in Damaraland, out with the Save the Rhino Trust team, as you know. So they've just picked up some fresh rhino tracks. So from here what they will do is they will be leading us. So we'll be going single file. They'll be pointing and following the track. So let's just follow them, and then typically what they will do is they will check if the tracks is fresh, and then normally they won't follow tracks from the previous day, so it has to be tracks from that morning. And then they can normally age it, by the edges, the fine sand, the detail of the tracks, and that's how they know that the tracks are fresh and that we will catch up with the rhino. So here we kind of getting to a mitten, rhino dung mitten. So what they will do is, so basically the tracks we're following, that is the primary sign we're looking at. But then, to age it a bit more accurate, you have to look at the secondary sign. So normally that's where they would urinate or, leave that dung. Now, typically it's in a dung mitten. So here they've already checked. And then if, Denzel, you can point it out. And then you can see it's still nice and wet. You have a lot of moisture in there. So we're pretty sure that the rhinos are in the area. It's very fresh. So as the rhinos are moving through the territory, they'll use certain sites, which is the dung mittens. And this is how they're marking their territory or communicating with each other. And then some of the mittens are smaller mittens, they're randomly used, but then you have the main mittens that they regularly use. So that's also a way of tracking the rhino. Apart from knowing which sources, water sources they're utilizing or springs, you can also go to these mittens. If you know the rhino is in that area, you can go to these dung mittens and then hopefully pick up some fresh sign by the fresh droppings that you find at these dung mittens. The trackers call it the post office because the rhinos communicate mostly through smell, and this is where they leave their messages. So that is their ID cards. So this will tell each rhino in the area who's in the area, if they're ready for mating, or just who's passing through the area. So that is what the trackers call the rhino post office. So we've picked up the tracks. We've seen from the dung that the rhinos passed here about 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just about past 8 going to 9. So what's happening now is the guys is going to take the tracks. They're going to follow these rhino tracks step by step to where the rhinos are. So what we're going to do is these guys are pretty fast on the tracks. They're walking at a speed. We'll probably won't be able to keep up. So what we will do is we'll drive around and then wait for them at a certain location. And that's where we will meet up with them and see how close we're getting to the rhino. The trackers have discovered the rhino. So last night we had a detailed safety briefing. So before we start our trek into the sighting, just some of the more important points we want to cover from a safety aspect. So like I said, when we go into the sighting, silence is one of the most important factors. We'll be walking in a single file. The trackers will be leading us. They'll always be in front. We always listen to their instructions, we follow their directions. If we are walking, always be careful of rocks and then stepping on dead branches. If we are walking too hard coming into the sighting, the trackers will show us the boots. That means just walk a little bit more carefully and a little bit more quietly. If you're ready, we'll go in, and one of the most important things we talked about last night is, I call it the emergency. If a rhino should be charging us, the number one rule is we never run. We just freeze and then look at what the trackers is showing us. So basically what will happen, one tracker will be staying with us. The other trackers will move away from us to get the attention of the rhino. When it's safe to go, they will give us the signal and we will then move out of the sighting to a safe area. But at no means run, just follow the instructions. on the tracks following the rhino, I see some older sign. So will you be able to tell how old this is, and if it was from one rhino or different rhinos that left the marking?
Yeah, the dung we see here is about 3 days old.
So how are you looking at the dryness and then?
Yeah, you can look at the surface when it's dry here.
Yeah.
Totally dry. When you turn it in other side, it's wet.
Okay.
So that means it's about 3 days old. So you see, this is three different dung, which means it's a smaller one.
Yes.
And this is from a calf,
Yeah.
smaller calf. It is about maybe, let me say, C size. C size is a calf of maybe, let me say, a year and a half old calf. And this is from a female, the mother of the calf and the previous calf, which means it's one family moving around here in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that typically goes, from the norm where we say black rhinos is very solitary, but in actual fact they do have family bonds, and then sometimes also what you can call friendship. So sometimes you don't always see them all alone, so sometimes you see them in groups. One of the trackers just came back. They haven't been gone too long, so probably there's some positive news. They're just quickly going to speak, and then Lesley is going to come back and give us some feedback. So what is the update, the news?
Yeah, the guys spotted the rhinos.
Yeah.
They are there. It's about 1.5 kilometers from here.
Okay.
So means that we had to, I don't know how difficult it will be for you guys to walk from here, but I think we have to drive a bit closer with the vehicles.
Okay.
And then from there, walk a distance of maybe 200 meters or 300 meters to the rhinos.
No problem. All of us are fit, so I think we're ready to do some tracking.
They actually found two.
Yes.
Which means a cow and a calf.
Yeah.
They're thinking of maybe there might be a third one around there.
Yeah.
So means 3 rhinos are together.
Excellent. But that is like from the tracks you already picked that up, that it was possibly 3.
Yeah.
So you've seen 2, possibly a third one.
Yeah, a third one will be just close by there.
Yeah. As we can see, the other trackers are standing in the sighting, so they're very close. So from here, as we're single filing, we won't, stay too far apart from each other. So let's keep it close. So if something should happen, we are close together, so that is easier to handle the group. So let's just slowly approach them in silence, and then just keep close contact with each other. That's pretty exciting. So after a very successful track, we've finally caught up with the rhino. So as the guys predicted, they saw 3 sets of tracks. So we're currently looking at one of the rhino closest to us is one of the dominant bulls. So the trackers told me his name is Speedy. Obviously he's not speedy today, he's quite relaxed. So just behind him is a mother and a calf. So it's still nice and cool, we have a nice breeze. So that's why they're still feeding. So we're kind of just sitting tight, looking at their natural behavior. And as they're feeding, there's a few open spots. So hopefully they will come out into the clearing and we can have a nice view of the little calf that is with the mother. As you can see, there's quite a thicket that is the Catophractus alexandri, also known as the trumpet thorn. So also very, you normally find it in the riverbeds where there's a bit of underground water, and that is the bush that they're currently feeding on. It actually has quite a bit of spines, but obviously we can hear the sound of them feeding, and they're just going through those little spines like it's nothing, so crunching away. these guys have been around for quite a while, several weeks within this area. Doesn't look like it, but there was a little bit of rain here, so you have some fresh vegetation, especially in the little dry riverbeds, and that's why we're seeing them in the riverbed feeding at the moment, because there's a bit of new growth. And then just close by where we found the tracks, that's where the spring is, so that's where they had a bit of water to drink, and good feeding sites. So yeah, it's a little paradise for them. Looks barren to us, but for them it's paradise at the moment. Okay, so Lesley, when I was looking at the trackers following the rhino, you know, going on the path, I saw them kind of veering off, coming back, and then going to the side, coming back. So what's happening? I mean, I'm looking at the rain here. I'm stepping here, but I can't even see my tracks. So how are these guys following these rhino tracks?
Yeah, that's if you can see, the terrain itself is rugged terrain.
Yeah.
And the area itself is mountainous area.
Yeah.
And our guys, they have been doing this for many years.
Yeah.
And they found it difficult to do trekking in this kind of terrain because, like you said, you can't see even your own tracks. You can't see them at all.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult to follow around on this terrain.
Yeah.
So, and the guys are used to it. They did it for many years.
Yeah.
And just looking at the rock kicked around by the rhino, and they know the size of the rhino footprints, how it looks like.
So then they can see it's like not maybe a giraffe, but it's a rhino walking.
A rhino, because it steps more, the place more flatter than a giraffe.
Yeah. So
because the foot is like a round foot.
Yeah.
The rhino foot is around.
Okay. So basically they're just looking at either depressed rock, or if you look at this, if you can see like it's been kicked out of the socket.
Yeah, sure. That's how they did it. They just look at those side of signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also it makes them difficult. Sometimes they're taking time to find the tracks, going up and down, searching for the tracks. Yeah. Because they losing the tracks sometimes. Yeah. In this kind of a terrain.
But they never give up, right?
They never give up. They never give up. Sometimes they do go for 20 to 40 kilometers per day.
Wow.
That's been after a rhino.
Yeah.
And the rhinos normally they are walking a distance of 40 kilometers per day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a long distance.
Wow. That is pretty amazing. Yeah. Lots of dedication there.